friends, and welcome back to Ghouls Night In, the spooky chat show with your best ghoul friends. I'm Penny Snark.
And I'm Midge Munster. And Penny, we have covered a wide array of Christmas creature on this show.
We have.
From We've done a whole Christmas creature feature actually back in our first year, I think, maybe our second year.
Oh, yeah.
But we've covered Yule Cat and Krampus and all kinds of things. And Penny, you yourself even once suggested that Santa is a vampire.
This is true. I did make that. I did suggest that.
But did you know that there is a gift giver who predates Santa Claus and that she is a witch? Ooh.
Mm.
So today we're going to be talking about the Christmas witch, La Befana of Italy.
Ooh.
And if I recall, Penny, I think you are familiar, at least, with La Befana a bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
just a little bit.
But for those of you who maybe have never heard of her, you are in for a treat. I really like her. She is a key part of Italian Christmas and Epiphany celebrations, delivering gifts to children, much like our old Saint Nick. But unlike Santa, like I said, she's a witch. She flies on a broomstick. She's
Hell
got
yeah.
a knack for house cleaning. And her story goes back centuries, like I said, predating the St. Nicholas legend. So, where do we start? Well, she goes back long before Christmas as we know it today. Her origins are kind of this fascinating mix of pagan, ancient Roman, and of course some Christian influences. But to fully understand where she may have originated from, we have to go back even before the Romans.
Whoa, that's far
Yeah,
back.
that's far.
That's far. Are we going to Stonehenge, Midge?
So once upon a time in Stonehenge, no. Uh, so if you are at all familiar with kind of the Roman historical period, you may know about what was called, unfortunately, the rape of the Sabine women.
Mm.
And this was an event in which men of Rome committed a mass abduction of the women from other surrounding cities and regions, but notably the women of the Sabine tribe. And the Sabine were a tribe that lived just east of the Tiber River. And like I said, their culture predates the Romans, though unfortunately we don't know a ton about them because a lot of their language and things were kind of lost to
Mhm.
time. But there is some belief that they maybe came from Greece near Sparta. We're just not quite sure everything about their history. But what we do know is that the Sabines worshipped a goddess called Strenia. And that was kind of brought into the Roman culture after the abduction of the Sabine women. And Strenia is going to be very important here moving forward.
Mm.
So in Rome, the Midwester, that's a town in Wisconsin, right now.
Hey.
Midwinter festivals were dedicated to a lot of agricultural deities, and this goddess Strenia, who was very symbolic of renewal and abundance. She is kind of at her core a New Year goddess, which, of course, now here's where there's some, fudgy wudgy areas. Because the Romans celebrated New Year at a different time than we do. This
Mhm.
was more of a March type
Yeah.
holiday. But as time moves on, I guess we mainly being that we can kind of understand where this goddess might get schmoozed into the La Befana lore,
Yeah.
um, which we'll get into in a minute. But she is associated with the start of the new year. And during celebrations for her, there would be a processional where people would bring gifts to wise women or priestesses who represented Strenia. And in exchange for the gifts brought, they would bestow good fortune for the new year or tell fortunes to the people. And this tradition likely influences La Befana's role as a gift giver.
Mhm.
In fact, to this day, there is a word, strena, meaning present or gift, that is still used in Italy. That is from Strenia's
Oh,
name. It is not, there are other more common words for
sure.
present, but strena is still active in the language. And these gifts that they brought to the priestesses and things were often laurel branches or coal. Um,
Ooh.
and the branches were a symbolic cleansing item or something, like a bundle of sticks, basically, to
Mhm.
sweep away
Yeah.
the
Sweep him
old.
out.
Sweep them out, to use that to bring in new energy and sweep out the old energy. And then coal, which of course we as Westerners think of as being like a bad thing to get. But at this time, coal was actually symbolic of fertility and abundance.
Oh,
So it
okay.
was a great thing to bring. And again, you can see how these traditions might have informed new gift giving lore as perceptions and beliefs about things changed through time.
Yeah, for sure.
So there are quite a few. So why are we talking about Strenia?
Yeah, Midge, why are we
Why,
talking about
why are we
Strenya?
talking? I thought you were
You
going to
told
tell
me
me.
La Befana.
You were going to tell me about a witch. Dang it! So there are a lot of similarities that historians have drawn between Strenia and La Befana, including associations to things like dates, figs, honey. Those were kind of Strenia's offerings of choice, and La
Her
Befana is
her fave snacks.
those were her. Yeah, that was her girl dinner.
Yeah.
And La Befana is also associated heavily with these items. Strenia was also a protector of children, and La Befana is kind of a children's protector in her own way as well. So there are some different lines being drawn here of like where these origins might have started, in Italy long, long, long ago.
Mhm.
But there is more to her story because, of course, who came in and brought their own, well, kind of their own stuff with them? It's those silly
Those
Christians.
pesky Christians.
They are here and they've got their own ideas, that they are spreading through Italy. And as the older pagan traditions become blended with new Christian ones, we get a different tapestry of beliefs. And right around here is where we get La Befana entering. So she is this wise old woman with a broom, and her name, Befana, likely comes from an Italian word for epiphany, the word epifania,
Mhm.
which, Penny, you were raised Catholic. Can you tell us all what epiphany is? if
Oh, man. It because the Epiphany comes after Christmas, or does it?
Yes.
Yes.
So
I think because that's like now we're all like, oh yeah, we know that Jesus is here and that God is doing stuff.
that's the exact
That's my
definition.
that's what the Pope told me.
But yes, Penny is correct. Epiphany happens after Christmas. It is the last day of the Christmas celebrations that happens in January, and it's said to be the day that the wise men or the magi reached
Yeah.
little baby Jesus.
Yes.
Um, so what does this have to do with an old woman? I'm so glad you asked. According to the legend, La Befana was just an ordinary old lady living in her small village, and on their way to meet the baby Jesus, the Magi stopped in her village and by her house on their way to Bethlehem and talked with her, told her, hey, we're following this star. We're on our way to see this child king who has been born. We're bringing him gifts. And they are telling her this story, and she gets very invested in it. And they invite her to come along with them. But she declines. I'm I'm laughing because there's a really brief clip on YouTube of Orson Welles telling the
Mhm.
story of La Befana on the Ed Sullivan Show, which is kind of wild to me.
Yeah.
Um, it was just a
It's
weird.
a
It's like only
quirky
like
mashup.
right, like things sentences I didn't expect to string together. But it's funny because Orson Welles, while telling the story, keeps referring to La Befana as house proud, which I had never heard that term before. He's like, yeah, she's extremely house proud. She's a spinster. So I would like everyone to, from now on, refer to me as a house proud spinster. But she is basically consumed with her housework.
Mhm.
She wants to do her chores and she's like, I can't go with you. I have sweeping to do. It's very important sweeping.
Very important sweeping.
Uh, and so they move on with their day and she's maintaining her chores. But later, she starts to regret her decision to not go. She's
She's
like,
like,
dang,
I could have swept later."
I could have swept later. I had the opportunity to meet the Child King. So she decides, okay, I'm gonna go find them and I'm gonna catch up. She grabs like a small rag doll gift to give to the child and runs after them. But unfortunately, girl, they've been gone. You've been sweeping for 45 minutes. Um, and so she can't find them. She
Those wise
cannot.
men move fast.
They are speedy. And she can't find the star
Mhm.
that they're following. So the legend is that since that day, La Befana has been searching for baby Jesus every year on the night before Epiphany. So Epiphany happens on January 6th. On Epiphany Eve, January 5th, she flies on her broomstick to visit as many homes with children as she can, hoping that she might be leaving a gift for the baby Jesus.
Aw,
Kind of sad.
it is sad.
Poor Befana. She just wanted to meet the baby. Um, there are also some versions of this legend where Befana had lost a child of her own.
Um,
And so in these versions, she actually does find baby Jesus and he like gives her the gift of being a mother to all children.
oh, that's
And
nice.
yeah, and so that's how she kind of becomes this protector and caretaker and gift giver. Um,
Sure. I feel like, Befana, if you flew on your broom, you probably could have caught up with the Magi.
so my understanding, at least,
No, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
is that like there are there are children's books about this that I don't know are actually part of the legend, but that like the broom flying came later.
Yes, yeah. It makes sense. It was just kind of funny
No, but I
where
had
I'm
that
like,
same thought.
"But
I'm like,
you can fly
girl,
all over the world," and I'm like, if you could have flown before, that would have been helpful, probably."
yeah, that would have really come in handy. So fast forward to today, and La Befana is still very much a part of Italian culture, Italian life. Um, like I said, Epiphany or La Festa dell'Epifania is still one of the most important holidays in Italy, marking the end of the Christmas season. Um, uh, so for this is something I only learned a few years ago. For anyone who does not know, this is what the 12 days of Christmas is actually talking about.
Yep.
It like starts at Christmas and goes
Mhm.
up to Epiphany, um, ending on, like we said, January 6th, which unfortunately now is not what most of us think of when you say January
Right.
6th. We're not like, ah,
Not
yeah, Epiphany.
Americans.
I had an epiphany that day, but it was not about Jesus. Uh, but so on that Epiphany Eve, January 5th, the children of Italy will leave out a glass of wine and snacks for La Befana and
Ooh,
hang.
that's way better than milk and cookies. La
Right?
Befana's got it right, or
You better
maybe
work.
just Italians got it right.
She's gonna get a. I was gonna say DUI, but I guess it'd be FUI. All that wine. Um, but yeah, they leave out the wine and snacks. They hang stockings by the fireplace, and hope that she'll come down the chimney for a visit. And if they've been good, she leaves candies, chocolates, and small toys. If they've been naughty, they might find a lump of coal all of this sounding familiar, Penny?
A little bit.
Yeah,
Oddly familiar.
oddly familiar. But one thing that does differ from Santa, St. Nicholas, is that Befana also sweeps your floor before she leaves your home.
Ooh.
This is said to symbolize the sweeping away of the troubles of the past year and making room for the blessings of the new one. But one thing about Befana, she loved to sweep.
She's gonna sweep.
She gonna sweep, and she's sweeping all the houses and drunk apparently.
Right, just
she's she's 500 glasses of wine deep, sweeping your living room
I mean, honestly, who among us has not been like, "I'll just have a sassy little glass of wine before I do my
to get
chores,"
my
and
chores done.
get makes the sweeping go a little faster?
Yeah, Bafana is like female culture.
I would say
She's so
we're
girly
talking
pop.
about girl dinner. Bafana's got her wine and snackies. She's hanging out.
Yeah, I she's the icon and she is the moment. Uh, but the celebrations of La Befana do not stop in the home.
Oh.
Lots of towns and villages have festivals and markets and parades in her honor. One of the biggest of these is in Urbania, a town that's pretty central in Italy. And every year, thousands of people gather here to celebrate the arrival of Befana with costumes and fireworks and bonfires, and of course, lots of La Befana herself.
Mhm.
But she's kind of this like celebrity. It's giving Macy's Day parade, but for a witch, which is
Hell
very
yeah.
very cool. Actually, I saw Penny. I saw a really cute video on YouTube of someone at a market in Italy around Epiphany time, and there were all these booths that were selling stockings with witches on them,
Oh, I love
and
that.
and they just had like all these stockings, and then like an old time candy store, but outside, just like rows of people
Mhm.
selling like, with the metal scooper thing full, and
Yes.
you can get all kinds of candies and stuff. It was so cute. And I really, really want to make myself a witch stocking now to leave out for La Befana.
That would be awesome.
Um, and I there was also a really cute video of a family where the little kids were like making stockings the night before to leave out for Bafana, and I was like, I wonder if that's common or if that was just this
Yeah.
family they were highlighting. But I know once upon a time when we did another Christmas episode on the pod, one of y'all out there, one of the listeners, was the first person to tell me about La Befana, and you said you grew up with this tradition. So if you are still here like 3 years later, I hope you are. I would love to hear more about your experience with that, and if you made stockings or bought stockings or how that worked. Um, but how is La Befana still relevant in an age of globalized Christmas,
Sure,
like
yeah.
big Christmas
Big Christmas.
dominated by Santa Claus? How is she staying so relevant? And really, it's a testament to her cultural importance, but also just like the importance of folklore and storytelling. And she's a really unique character in the sense that, unlike Santa, she's not been polished for commercialization.
Mhm.
She's often depicted as like a kind of dirty old woman. Um, and she has like a little handkerchief. It's giving Cinderella
Yeah.
pre-transformation. Like
'Cause all the sweeping, you're
yeah,
gonna
all the
get
she's
dirty.
and I also learned that because also she's coming down your chimney, so she's covered in soot.
Oh, yes.
Um, but I learned because that again, we're talking pre-Santa, and she was already coming down chimneys.
Mhm.
And there are some scholars that believe that that idea originated from like Neolithic housing where the entrance was like in the roof via ladder.
Ooh.
And so that idea of like quote coming down the chimney was because that used to be like the only way to enter
Oh,
some of
yeah,
these
you should, like,
homes.
descend into the
You had
house.
to like come down into the house, and so then that evolved into, well, how do we come down into the house? The
Through
chimney.
the chimney.
Kind of a cool little bit of Christmas fact for you. uh, but she's, she's also this image that resonates with many Italians, and I think a lot of people in general, as just this symbol of everyday kindness and resilience. She's everyman, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't fly, which is dope. I wish I could, but she's not this like person who lives at the North Pole and has hundreds of people working for him. And she's just a little Nana who's
Yeah.
out to give children toys, and she doesn't care if you're the baby Jesus or not. She just hopes that you want something nice.
Yeah.
Um, that is not to say that she has not found her place in the commercial era zeitgeist. She's appeared in lots of cartoons, in children's books. I was just in Savannah, Georgia this past weekend, and I was in a bookstore and I saw a children's book about her, that I believe was called it was called like Yours, comma Befana, and it made me laugh because it was very like XOXO Gossip Girl.
I was gonna say Love Simon.
Yeah. But it was really a beautiful book, beautiful, like very folk illustration
Yeah.
style. It was really cool. But it was cool to just see it like out in the wild at a normal bookstore.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, bring back children's folklore.
So true. Our friend of the pod at Omen in Milwaukee
Mm-hmm.
um l- s- helped run a like a around the world like Christmas shopping thing.
Oh,
And
cool.
last year their theme was La Befana.
Oh, hell yeah.
And had like some Christmas witchiness around there. So I think they're doing a different place this year. But that was a return of La Befana to me, and I was like, oh yeah, this
Very
Christmas
cool.
witch, I've heard of you.
Well, and I was kind of talking, I'm getting off topic a little bit. I was kind of talking about this on an Instagram live the other day about, and several things I read did kind of bring in Gryla
Hmm.
or even Baba Yaga, who are, well, Gryla is kind of a winter and Christmas figure, but like
Yeah.
Baba Yaga is not
No.
inherently
Yeah.
anything to do with Christmas, but I kind of associate her with winter and Christmas.
Yeah. I feel like anything Russian, we think about the cold.
But kind of this, we're kind of ruminating over this idea of just like the witch as the crone character and
Hmm.
how that relates to winter. And so I do think it's really cool that we see a lot of these kind of witch figures centralized in the like Christmas time. It's very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, and like you said that kind of back her one of her originators was kind of a New Year's
Uh-huh.
figure, and this idea of, the cycle and
Well, and
the
also very appropriate that like these female characters kind of got moved from like priestesses and goddesses into witches
Yep.
as views of women change through
Mhm.
time. Lots to be said there, but that's another episode. But this all was from me talking about her appearing places. There is, which again, one of you told me about this at one time. There is a 2018 Italian film about La Befana that's called
Ooh.
the Christmas Witch. And since then, many of you have recommended it to me. I plan on watching it this year. It is an Italian language film. Just if you're wanting to watch it, be prepared that it is not in English if
Mhm.
you are an English speaker. But I think that's even cooler because it's actually made by the people who
Yeah,
celebrate this
feels more
culture.
legit.
Right. So I'm really excited to check that out. Hopefully, have a new Christmas favorite film. You can also see La Befana at Epcot, Italy during the holiday season.
Oh.
And there are some really, really charming videos online of her, the actor that plays her at Epcot, telling the La Befana tale. I highly recommend you go check that out. It's so, she's just, all iterations are really good, but there's just
Mhm.
one actor in particular that I've like fallen in love with. She's so good. So cute. Uh, and there have also been a lot of things that are not specifically La Befana herself, but have definitely pulled from her influence. Because I went into this thinking this big thing that came to mind for me when I hear Christmas Witch is Aubrey Plaza's book,
Hmm.
The Legend of the Christmas Witch, that came out in 2021. And I believe the subsequent like Return of the Christmas Witch that came out like last year maybe. Um, but it's actually not about La Befana at all.
Oh, just some other Christmas witch.
Just yeah, it's like a story about a witch that is the twin sister of Saint Nicholas.
Oh.
Um, and that she's kind of trying to bring back what like Yuletide is really about, and focusing on nature and the change of the seasons, and trying to like remind Santa that it's not always about the presents and the
Hmm.
commercial aspects.
Sure.
Um so I'm like, not La Befana, but also kind of.
Yeah,
Uh
definitely has some
Definitely
spiritual
taking
connections.
yeah, taking some lore there maybe. Total side note, do you remember that press tour at all for that first book where Aubrey Plaza was just like going
Yes.
full tilt
Just
unhinged in
unhinged
witch
witchiness. Yes,
costumes
I do
on like
remember that.
just on Good Morning America, like doing an entire bit at 8 a.m.
Yes.
Oh,
Love
so
her.
good. But you can see her La Befana's influence all around if you look. Especially, enjoying the fact that so many of these things, not just her, things like Krampus and the Christmas spider, and all these beautiful folk tales and legends are starting to kind of like gain more ubiquity in places that did not know about them before. I think winter is like the most folklore-y time like where I'm like, ooh, I love
Yeah.
stories. Probably that thing in all of us that wants to like sit around a fire and tell
Yes.
ghost stories in the winter, it has that same vibe. So I love to learn about new folklore, and well, new to me, not
Mhm.
new
Yeah.
by any means. It's
Yes.
quite old, in
You
fact.
you like to
Very,
you
very
like to be
old.
introduced to folklore.
I like to learn about folklore. So thank you to those of you who brought La Befana into my sphere and encouraged me to learn about her. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you all enjoyed this episode as well. If there is, like I said, we've covered a lot here. I had told Penny I was going to originally do an episode with several things, and I
Mhm.
forgot that we had covered so much that
We
first year.
did.
I wrote
I
up a
I
whole
feel like
thing.
we could definitely do deeper dives into a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could delve for sure, but if, anyone else has things from their part of the world that you would love to hear us delve into, please always feel free to let us know about those things. Because sometimes they've just not entered our sphere, and we don't even know what to research, and we love learning about all this stuff. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope that you are having a cozy December and a fun holiday season so far. If you are wanting to tell us your enjoyment of this pod, or to share anything with us, you can leave us a review wherever you listen, or leave us Spotify comments. You can always go into our Instagram DMs and message us. We are currently fresh out of hot reviews. So that would be,
All I want for Christmas is fresh hot reviews.
we're leaving out our stockings for La Befana
Yes.
to fill
Please
them full of beautiful reviews for
please
us
come
to.
sweep my house and leave me a review.
And if you would like to keep up with the podcast, you can follow us over at Ghouls Night in Pod on Instagram. It's a little late in the season now, but I will also say if you're looking for a treat for someone you love or for yourself, we do have Ghouls Night in merch available
We do.
at the link in our Instagram bio, or you can go to midgemunster.com/shop to take a look at all the goodies we have to offer for your stockings. And if you are looking for me, you can find me all over the web at Midge Munster.
And you can find me at Penny Snark.
And until next time, good
Good. Bye.
bye.